Anthony. I thought you was the big man in the D. I mean, you from the D. You from Detroit. You from Detroit. You know everybody. You that dude, right? But you only can get 12 men at your man's movement. You're full of shit. Hey, what's up and hello? This is the Chris Nicole giving you my views on life, love, and the world of entertainment through my eyes. And this is my review on Love and Marriage Detroit, Season 1, Episode 9. You Scott to come back to Detroit. So Anthony is still screaming at Brandon, saying he doesn't have an issue with him. We already know you're full of it, man child. And Brandon, in his confessional, finally says out loud, Anthony is not his friend. And I'm like, thank you, man bun. Thank you for finally saying that and admitting it and stop acting like you don't see what we all see. So he says, look, he's not my friend, but for business, I have to make sure this showcase is good because my name is on it. So Brandon and Christina talk at the house, and Christina says there's still weirdness between her and Latoya. And Brandon tells Christina about Anthony and that he mentions that Anthony wants Lyrique as a judge at the showcase. We find out that Lyrique's real name is Sean, and Christina says that they worked together like years ago before she met Brandon, and Lyrique started to have a thing for Christina and it got weird, so she backed away. That's her version of the story, and I'm sure Anthony knew this. I'm sure he did. That's why he's being messy. So, next, the couple's dinner. And Christina, I guess, has like a question game or scenario game that she does. And I don't know why Latoya was the first one to put a question out there because she just has a stick up her ass. She's just so dull. I don't see the purpose again of her being on this show. But they have a good old fake time because it's fake. And in the confessional, Anthony, of course, being the little bitch that he is, says that Kobe is good in social media, but his content is much better. Anthony, people who think they're good at everything usually means they're good at nothing. And that's the vibes I get from you. Because for you to claim that you're so good at everything, why wasn't your man movement successful? But we'll get to that later on. So the girls are outside and Christina talks to Latoya. And, Christina says, you make me out to look like I'm the bad guy. And what did I do to you to make you not like me? Latoya doesn't really have an answer. She really doesn't have a solid answer. So my thing is this, when you don't have a solid answer, even if it sounds childish, which we already know most people in this group are childish, just say, look, I know Colby. She's my sorority sister, and I'm going to have her back before I have your back because I really don't know you, versus the BS answer she gave that did not include her punk ass man who's always stirring up nonsense. So Bravo's wife is the voice of reason, just like Bravo is. And she's like, look, friends argue. Friends sometimes don't get along and they may not talk for a while, but if it's real friendship, they'll get back together. And Colby says, can Christina and Latoya turn the page? And Christina's talking, doing most of the talking, while Latoya's just nodding her head. And they're both claiming that they're good, they're A1, and they're going to start over. Let's just stop the nonsense. They're not starting over. It's so fake. it's phony. I don't think they're ever going to be friends, and I think they just need to accept it. And Latoya, in her confessional, says that she can move forward with Christina if she's more open about what she feels and who she truly is. Latoya, the audacity. As if you open up about how you truly feel and who you truly are. We don't know who you are besides you being a doctor and you having degrees and that you're married to Anthony. We don't know who you are and what makes you tick. So shut up. Moving on. We have Bravo and man-child Anthony, and they meet at Bravo's restaurant. And Bravo says that he wants to bring Marsau Scott as a speaker for the man's movement. Bottom line, this was just cross promotion because you can't tell me you couldn't find another successful black man in Detroit of all places who could have spoke at the man's movement, who's actually from Detroit. So this was just cross promotion to promote both shows. Okay, fine. So Bravo says Marsau is from the D, but we find out when, of course, Anthony, asks what high school he went to. He says he's actually from Pontiac, not Detroit. But Anthony makes it seem like, oh, it's the same thing. It's all good. It's all the same. Okay. But when you said Brandon was from the suburbs, it wasn't the same. And you don't have a problem with Brandon. Yeah, okay. So Anthony explains what the man movement is. And literally, when he explains it, it does sound like a great idea. Again, like I said before, though, I just think he's the wrong person to lead it and execute it. So, moving on. Brandon meets with his mom on his birthday. And this is the most awkward scene ever. I would have never known that was his mother because they're very awkward. So, he speaks to his mom and says that he lacks emotions and, he feels like that had to come from some type of trauma. And then he explains that growing up in the hood with a white mother was hard. And her response is, being or living in the hood as a white woman wasn't easy either. And my whole thing is, yes, I am sure it wasn't easy for you too, but I don't like when people, especially when you're dealing with a parent-child situation, your child is trying to open up and explain how difficult things were for them growing up, and you try to come back on how difficult it was for you. This is not the time to vent about you. Your child is talking about their concerns, their issues. But it is very clear that that mom has a disconnect in so many ways. But with that, Brandon says he wants to go to therapy. And in the most awkward way possible, the mom agrees to actually go to therapy as well. So, now we have this man movement, okay? It's pouring down rain. Now, would that stop people from coming out? Maybe in a place like California or even Florida. Maybe not even Florida, because Florida's known for rain too. But maybe like a place like California. I mean, we definitely don't like to do the rain here that much. But in my opinion, Detroit, I mean, they get rain, sleet, snow, all types of weather. And this is a TV show. So, in my opinion, I would say people will show up even if it's raining. I say people didn't show up because Anthony is not a big name, period. And that's why no one showed up. So, you already know Brandon was going to get his lick back. He walks in and he's like, look, it's a great idea, but there's no men at this man's movement. And then he was like, this is not a movement, it's a mint. Good one, Brandon, good one. And after all the stuff that Anthony has said about you, it's time for you to get your lick back. Sorry. So only literally like a dozen men showed up, y'all. Like only a dozen men. And that's not including the cast, okay? So literally, you probably had a dozen men and the cast members. So maybe at most like 20 people, and I think I'm being like nice. 20 men showed up to this thing. Epic failure. So he passes them flyers about what the man movement is. And then they do these little speeches. And then they go outside and they just walk. They don't knock on doors. They don't pass out flyers, speak to other Black men or boys in the community. It was a hot mess. Even Bravo said his daughter's recitals have more organization than this man movement. And I won't even get on the corny scene where they were breaking the chain. They literally got the youngest guy in the room and the oldest guy in the room and literally took a chain and they broke the chain. Like, Anthony, trust and believe if this was Brandon's event, Anthony would have clowned him. He would have definitely clowned him. And Anthony, of course, knows, he had to know it was a fail because he tried to say that he typically has events with way more people, but this was about substance. Substance where? How? Explain to me how there was substance. You didn't do anything. So after this walk, even Marsau was like, okay, great start, but there needs to be action. And so Brandon's like, I'm still confused on what we're doing. And then Colby, of course, has to put her 2 cents in and says, look, I mean, it's clear based on what was on that flyer and what they said, what the movement is about. It was clear on that paper. Here's the problem though, Colby. The problem is it was only on the paper. There was no action behind it, fool. That's the issue. Who cares what's on paper? A man's movement is about action, and there was no action. Okay? And then Anthony tried to say in his confessional, this was a historical moment. How, Sway? How? How was this historical? You truly acting like you Louis Farrakhan with your Million Man March. How was this historical? Walking down the street not doing nothing. Nothing. It was a failure. Point blank period. So with that, Anthony, again, lesson learned in this situation. I hope you learn from this, which I doubt it. More action, less talking, because you've done a lot of talking. So I would think this was your moment to shine and you didn't. So moving on, last scene. Brandon is in therapy with his mother. But you know what? Sidebar. They have a penthouse in Detroit, and I'm sure it's beautiful because, like I said, I love Christina's style from, like how she dresses and everything. So I'm sure the penthouse is lovely. They just had a very small kitchen. I'm sorry, but like when I think of a penthouse or a nice house or something, I'm looking for a big kitchen. I'm big on big kitchens. Maybe because I just cook, but I need a big kitchen. But going back to the therapy session, it was just as awkward as the other scene with his mother. And so the therapist that's there, she says, well, like, what would you like out of this situation? Brandon pretty much wants more communication and for them to be more open. And she says, the mother says, I tried to talk to him and, he would just like be sucking his thumb and he wouldn't say anything. And Brandon's like, sucking my thumb. He was like, how old was I? Like 8 years old? And she was like, I think you were even younger than that. So I think that set the tone of, us moving forward as far as communication. And I'm like, ma'am, you're going to base things off of when he was that young on why you shut down and didn't speak to him after that? Like, you as the parent, you set the tone. What if he had a learning disability and maybe that's why he didn't talk to you, or maybe he stuttered or something like that? Like, you're supposed to set the tone. He doesn't set the tone to communication at that age. Child, look, here's the thing. You can tell that the mom needs her own separate she needs her own separate therapy. There's something there. She has her own trauma that she has to deal with. And I think she needs her own separate therapy before she can have therapy with him, because she even said in the confessional that she's fine with the way things are. And clearly Brandon feels like they really don't have any type of relationship, really. So she has her own things to deal with. And maybe that divorce, unfortunately, when you deal with divorces, sometimes people act as if they can't connect with the kids that they had with that spouse because now they're divorced. Like, maybe, I don't know what happened, but I don't know. I think that mother needs help, to the point where at the end of the episode she says, I'll speak to him sometimes. I wouldn't mind speak to him sometimes. And Brandon says, it sounds like, you can deal with it or not. You don't have to necessarily talk to me. Like, that's the way you're coming off, as if you can talk to me or you cannot talk to me. You don't care. And he begins to get emotional and she's just staring at him. So, child, God bless them, because that seems to be a very hard situation, and hopefully they can get through it. But that mother seemed like she's set in her ways. So, with that being said, that was the episode. I mean, it was an okay episode. I'm ready for this reunion though, because let them tell it. Christina and Brandon made it seem like this reunion was going to be really good. So we shall see. But what did you guys think about this episode? Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on my next video. Toodles.